Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc., the show where the writers are fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry.
The Writer Extraordinaire Lance Green from FlyersNittyGritty.com is joined by SteelFlyers as they talk about Lance's latest articles, player profiles, interviews, and guests.
Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, but the mic is just getting warmed up. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc. Hey, how you guys doing today? We got Lance Green sitting in, baby. How you doing, Lance?
All right. How are you guys?
Doing great, man. Doing great. How can we get a hold of you, and where can we find all your great stuff?
Definitely, guys. As always, welcome to Hockey Writers Inc. I'm Lance Green. You can follow me on Twitter at LNGBASSIST, the number's 39 if you want. And of course, all my articles can be found on FlyersNittyGritty.com or SteelFlyers.com.
Yeah, for sure, man. Check that out, too. That's going to be coming up real soon here. We're going to have www.steelflyers.com/hockeywritersinc. That'll be coming out real soon, so you'll be able to get all of the latest and greatest articles from Lance there, and all the greatest shows. All the greatest stuff will be right there. So everything will be right there for you to take care of and check out. So for sure. Just want to say congratulations to Mr. Green and Hockey Writers Inc. for making Bleacher Report last week. Congratulations, my man. That's the way to hit it out of the park there, buddy.
Yeah. I love it.
Right?
More exposure, the better.
Exactly. So we have guests that we're trying to get lined up, and we have a whole bunch of great new things that we want to get into with you guys. But today on this show, Lance put out another great article, and that's the first thing I want to get into on the show today. We're going to talk about the article that Lance put out on FlyersNittyGritty.com here just a couple of days ago about Patrik Laine might be a pipe dream for the Flyers. However, there might be somebody on Winnipeg that the Flyers maybe should have an eye on. And that's what we're going to get into. Plus, we're going to get into all kinds of great prospects and some player information going on with the Flyers right now, especially some draft picks and all kinds of other great stuff we're going to get into. So, how about, let's start off with the article that you did, Lance. Patrik Laine, what do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think at this point, guys, it is, like I said, a pipe dream. The Jets have come out and said that they do expect him back in camp. They obviously shopped him in the offseason, and they must not have got an offer they liked. So they do expect him back in camp, and they have come out and said, unless they have an offer that absolutely knocks their socks off, he's going to be with them next year.
Yeah.
So where do we go from there, guys? I was looking at the roster, looking at some trade rumors, and found that they are in need of something that the Flyers have a plethora of, guys, and that is a left-hand shot defenseman.
Whoa,
all right?
Wait, no, hold on. No. The Flyers, a plethora of left-hand shot defense. Fill us in, Lance. Enlighten us, my man.
Yeah. So the Jets need a left-hand shot defenseman, a top four guy preferably. They have a bunch of guys in their system that are either, bottom pairing guys that aren't quite ready to make the jump to the NHL, or guys who they thought were going to be that guy, but just have faltered in a sense.
Yeah.
So in that token, they're willing to put out there a restricted free agent named Jack Roslovic that they have, an American-born guy that is quite the player at just 23 years old already. He had 12 goals and 17 assists last year for 29 points and was a +4 in 71 games played with the Jets. He's kind of buried, though, in Winnipeg.
You can tell with those numbers.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, playing behind Wheeler and Laine. He plays the left wing behind them. So
it's tough to play behind that kind of that kind of defense too. You know what I mean? Plus, they also shored up their goalie too. So look, the Winnipeg Jets are, and then they had that whole falling out with Dustin Bufflin, and the whole 9 yards with that. But that's another day, another thing that really doesn't. But with Winnipeg though, they are one of those teams that are in cap purgatory. Okay, so they're over the cap right now. Okay, and I think they were trying to shop Laine to maybe see if they could get him off the books. You know what I mean? And obviously, what they were asking was too much because he's still with the team. Obviously, you know what I mean. So, I mean, what makes you think that the Flyers should look at Roslovic, 6'1", 187 pounds? Why do you think? I mean, 2015 first round draft pick. Why do you think the Flyers should be looking at him?
Well, I think he's got a scorer's touch, and obviously the Flyers were out this offseason and had been rumored to looking for a power play specialist, a guy that can come out and just score, and really we didn't address that in the offseason. We tried some different measures, if you will, to shore up the defense, but really didn't go out to get a scoring winger. Now we have guys like Patrick and Lindblom coming back, hopefully healthy, which will help. But still, I think we need a scorer. Now, Jack made just $1 million last season.
Yeah.
He is a restricted free agent, and he would be up for a pay raise. But generally, that might be not as much as we may think. Let's say, and we could definitely sign him.
Yeah.
Back and still sign Myers in a
Yeah.
sense and
Yeah.
add to that offense.
Yeah. I mean, you point out in the article that he would only maybe go like 1.5, 1.8 million. You know what I mean? So that's not that big of a jump. And even if we do give Myers the bigger end of the contract side, you know what I mean? That would leave us with enough money to take care of Jack and get him on the roster. You know what I mean? But what you also mentioned in the article too is the fact that there might possibility be a trade. Okay, and I can understand why you say that because that's something that the Flyers would really like to do. And if you really boil it down based off of what you said just now and based off of what you said in the article, Winnipeg is looking for left-hand defensemen. We have presumably 2 top 4 left-hand defensemen that could be power play guys for them, that could be check off all the boxes for them. One of them would be Shane Gostisbehere, who actually has a relatively team-friendly deal, $4.25 million for the next 2-3 years, right?
Right.
Okay, so but with Winnipeg being in cap purgatory, that kind of puts the brakes on. Wait a minute. Something's going to have to get done here if this guy's going to have to be on the roster. Do you think Chuck is going to be? Do you think Chuck's going to do something like that? Do you think this is? I mean, what makes you think that this guy is somebody that the Flyers should be looking at?
Well, I don't know if he is going to be doing that with the offseason being as it is, and we don't really know when the start of this season is going to commence. But it's something that he should be looking for. If you can better your team at any point, you should do it. And especially with this kid just being 23 years old, he's not 30 years old and waiting around for another season and him getting that much older. Now, definitely. Winnipeg is cap strapped, but a lot of teams are. I'm not really worried about that at this point. There's no set date to the start of the year, and a lot of teams out there are still way over and still need to get under the cap and have time to make those moves in order to do so.
Yeah.
And that's where I think Winnipeg is at in their mind as well, where they know they have the goalie in mind with Hellebuck and have an offense set that is on point already. But they don't have anybody after Morrissey, which is their top pairing left-hand shot defenseman. The guy they would be going after if the Flyers were to call and try to make a trade would be Sanheim. Now, obviously, There's two teams out there already trying to get Russell Volovic's
Right.
rights under them, and
Yeah.
that's Las Vegas and his hometown Columbus.
Yeah.
But I think we have a little bit more to offer here. They would want Travis Sanheim. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want to trade him, even though he is up after this next season for a raise, possibly, and a new contract, uh, with Carter Hart still being out there. But I think we could probably have them more look at a guy like Shane Gostisbehere, who's coming back finally healthy after a couple surgeries,
Yeah.
who has been a, a person that can put up some points in the past, where, let's face it, Winnipeg is more offensively driven than we are.
Yeah, yeah, for
AV
sure.
likes a defensive
Yep.
system and
Yep.
likes to be more defensively sound than Winnipeg does.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we could possibly entice them to go in on a trade for Jack, for Gostisbehere, and say another left-hand shot defenseman who's still just a prospect. You have guys like Moran, Zumala, our new pick, Emil Andre, Mason Millman, and Cameron York.
I mean, yeah, there's a plethora of guys that we could wave in front of them. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So yeah, look, we all agree that there's some players on the team that we would like to keep, but there might be some players on the team that might have to go. And you were talking about Zumala sticking around because we both like him. You know what I mean? And you were talking about some of the line combinations with York and maybe some of those guys too, you know what I mean, coming up through. So to get Jack on the team, something's going to happen on the Flyers. We're going to have to do something. You know what I mean? And I do like some of your suggestions that you even mentioned in the article too, especially with Shane Gostisbehere and everything like that. You know what I mean? So here's a question for you. Do you think that given the way everything's going right now, with the way like the OHL has delayed their start and everything has been kind of pushed back and we don't have an opening date yet for the NHL and all that other stuff, do you think that the Flyers and Chuck Fletcher will stand pat and go into the season with the team that we have? I mean, what is the likelihood of that? What are your thoughts about that idea?
yeah, I definitely think that at this point, with the uncertainty of everything, I think that we will probably just stand pat and we'll be done making moves. There's no revenue coming in. There's no games happening right now. So, there's no concession stands. There's no sales of jerseys at the stadium and all that. So with an uncertainty of everything, I believe we might just stay put. But again, I think if we have this big opportunity to bring in somebody that can be here for a long time, I think we should jump at that, as opposed to
Oh, yeah.
maybe going ahead and trying to make a deal right now with somebody that's
Yeah.
30 years old and will be that much older whenever this season
Yeah,
starts.
I'm with you. I'm with you for sure. You know what I mean? So I like that idea. I like that there's some ideas out there that we could do, but I also think that when it really boils down to it, that we're basically going to have to just stand pat because we have some money in the bank, quote unquote, some money in the bank, and next year we've got some contracts that are going to be really important for next year. And as we all know, the cap is not going anywhere. Okay. And right now, just like you pointed out, there is no money coming in. There's no butts in the seats. There's no revenue coming in right now other than, residuals and whatever. But for the most part, yeah, there's no money coming in. So what you going to do? You know what I mean? So I think the Flyers are going to stand pat with everything. I think we're going to, with what we got. Let's see what we got. And if it comes down to it, because I think we're going to ease into having fans in the stands throughout the season, no matter how condensed or whatever it's going to be. Because if they start at the rumored January 1st date, there's no way they can play 82 games and get done before the Olympics. Unless they play 5 games a week. And you played hockey. Can you play 5 games a week?
I probably could back then, but not really right now for sure.
No. Not when you have to travel. Like if your games are, and even if they do a modified bubble. I mean, no. I don't think the players are going to go for that. You know what I mean? Come on, seriously. Look. Well, let's talk about some good news. How about some good news? Some good news about a Flyers draft pick has been recently lighting it up. What do you think about that? I like it. I like
Yeah.
seeing the draft picks coming up and playing really well. And we are talking about Elliot Desnoyers. I probably butched that name really badly, but that was my first attempt, so we'll just call him Elliot from now on.
Right.
So, Mr. Green, you've cast your observant eyes upon Mr. Elliot. Lately, the last few games, he's done really well. Enlighten us, my man.
Yeah, I mean, our 2020 fifth round pick, he's left wing, 5'11", 170-ish pounds. Um, he played last year for another team, but now he's with a little bit more, was buried a little bit more. But now he plays for the Halifax Mooseheads, and he seems to be taking it and running with it. This year, he's played in 12 games so far. He has 11 goals, 9 assists for 20 points. If you do the math, that's 1.66 points per game.
Yeah, that's good math.
With a just under 1 goal a game average, guys. He's had a couple of games where he scored, I think, 4 goals already in multiple games.
Uh-huh.
So this kid's got a scoring touch, and the info out on him before the draft was he was a little bit more better off of the puck and a little bit more defensively minded, more so than he's showing this year.
Yeah, that's why I was like, wait a minute. Is this the guy we selected? Because like when you look at all of his pre-draft highlights, he's very defensive minded. He's very responsible in the defensive end. And you just don't see offensively gifted players like that are that responsible at that age. You know what I mean? When you especially when you look at guys like, say, James Hardy or our Tyson Forrester, our first round draft pick, those guys were more concerned about being in the offensive zone and getting the puck and take care of things that way, where their back end game was a little bit lax. Okay, but they're young, and they're trying to hone their game, and you can only work on one thing at a time, I guess. Multitasking is not necessarily always the best thing in the world, But oh my gosh, I'm with you, man. This kid's lighting it up, and I like it. I really like it, and it bodes well for us too. So,
yeah, I think he's one of the only ones to be able to watch right now because there's so few leagues playing. But he is sitting at third in points in the whole league, with a tie for first being 2 guys with 21 points when he has 20.
Oh wow!
But I want to talk about another guy as well, a guy I've been a fan of, and I think is one of the better goaltenders in our system, and that's Ivan Fedotov.
Yes.
Okay, he's playing in KHL, the KHL right now in Russia, which is one of the other leagues that's up and running currently.
Yeah, they're one of the tougher ones too. They're one of the tougher leagues. I mean, that's not a fluff league by any stretch.
No, outside of the NHL, I would deem that as the second best league in the world.
Agreed.
Yep. So it's definitely a stiff competition for sure. Now in 7 games, Ivan has posted a 1.71 goals against average.
My.
All right, which is pretty impressive, and a .94 save percentage. Almost 94% of the time he's stopping the puck when it's shot at him.
Wow.
So, I mean, this kid has had these numbers throughout last season as well, and it seems with the better competition he faces, the better numbers he has. So I think he is signed for a couple more years over there since we have a logjam of goaltending already in our system. He decided to sign back, which is a little frustrating. But, it is what it is. We still have his rights and could
Right. Well,
eventually get him over
I was
here.
just going to say, here's what I was thinking too. This might actually work out in our favor where Elliot signed for this year, and he signed that 2-year contract for the KHL, right? I believe that's what it was. It
Hmm.
was a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
So that gets him this year and next year, which is going to be when we really could use him because we got
Hmm.
Line. We re-signed Alex Lyon. Yeah. I know. Well, look, we're both on the same sheet when it comes to that. We thought for sure that I would have much rather given him that contract than Lyon all day long, just because
Yeah.
I've seen much better play. So, but those are great. Yeah, great for the Flyers prospect pool to see players like that coming and playing that well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, on the other end of that spectrum, though, we got a couple that are struggling right now,
Yep.
both in the SHL, and that would be our second round pick, Emil Andre,
Mm-hmm.
who's playing for HV 71 in the SHL. Now, it's his first real tests for any length of time in the SHL. And up to date, he's played in 13 games thus far. Only has 2 assists for a guy that was so offensively talked about
Right.
in that sense, and is a -5 on the year over there right now.
Okay.
He's kind of struggling in that sense.
Mm.
And another guy who plays for the same team in the same league, guy we signed in Linus Sandin,
Yeah.
has played in just 12 games and has 2 goals and 4 assists for 6 points, which is not bad considering
Yeah.
a half game point per game average for sure. But he was
Small body
leading
of
that
work.
league.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He was leading that league last year in goals and isn't quite there yet this year. So he's more of a guy that could potentially play on the Flyers
Yeah.
at some point this season. So I want to kind of see better numbers from
Yeah. I'm
him
with you.
if he's going to make the jump and
Yeah.
play in NHL.
Yeah, for sure. Now, will these guys get an invite to camp?
It depends. It depends. With their seasons already well underway, it might be beneficial to at least see Andre play and just stay over there, given like the previous mentioned depth in the system already, with guys more close to making the roster, with such a shortened probably camp. We want to see more just the guys that do have a shot at actually making it
Yeah,
rather than
Raj.
just,
Yeah.
an extended
Yeah.
list of
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
have no chance
Yeah.
as of yet.
Okay. Because
Uh,
I knew that they were talking about expanding the amount of players that they were gonna invite to camp and everything, just to try to get more players skating, more players working out, and more eyes on the players because of not having all these other leagues out there playing and stuff like that. So that's why I just asked that question, thinking that maybe some of those fringe players that potentially, like I would think that maybe Tyson Forster might get an invite. Just just because he was a number one pick, you know what I mean? And if Elliott continues to play like this, he might very well. I mean, I'm just spitballing. You know what I mean? I'm just throwing it out there because why not? If they're going to expand the amount of players that they're going to bring in, why not bring in some of these young guys? But yeah, but that kind of does make sense. If their season's already playing, when is their season going to be over?
yeah, usually a camp would be before their season started, and usually they get an early bump out anyway to
Okay,
get back into their own teams camps and all that,
okay,
and get them going in their own league settled and all. But now this year's different circumstances for sure.
exactly.
So it would be more, I would think, for those AHL guys and stuff that aren't playing either up to that point. The OHL is set to recommence, and different leagues with the QM JHL is already underway.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
why not just leave them there?
yeah. Oh, that's why we have these conversations, man, so we can get this information out there for everybody. You know what I mean? And we also know that Chuck is listening, right? Chuck Fletcher is listening to the show. So,
Yeah,
Chuck, we have
fingers
some
crossed.
ideas for you, my man. So you should Lance Green's Twitter handles right down there on the screen. You need to be okay. I like that we're getting a report on the draft picks because that and the fact that we weren't necessarily sure we were going to be able to do that because of the availability of the other leagues playing. So at least things are starting to slowly come back to some kind of something. But see, that's why I had those questions because we don't have those other leagues playing, and we're not seeing the players play like they need to be playing, and we're not going to get the tape on them. And I think it's going to affect the draft in the next 2 years if they continue like this. And look, here's the one thing that we haven't talked about yet, and I was saving the best for last: the elephant in the room. The OHL announcing no hitting. That is going to make things even more difficult for players that are actually playing because now you're not going to get a true sense of what's going on. So, Mr. Green, your thoughts on the OHL saying no hitting?
Oh, I think coming from a player's perspective here, I think most would agree. It's a big part of the game. They're trying to take the physicality out of the game, but anybody who really plays and has grown up since Pee Wee hockey, you're taught to hit and finish your checks, and it plays a big part in puck control, puck possession, uh,
Everything.
gaining chances,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
everything. I really think it's going to hurt the league in a sense, in just the viewers willing to watch, and I really see a big difference in maybe some goal scoring will be up, which will be great for the league, I guess, if they like to see that. But in a sense, how are you even going to push guys out of the way in front of the net? That plays another pickle for me for say. That I just I see
Mm-hmm.
guys trying to cheat this system and I don't know if it's going to be a good thing.
I'm with you. I'm with you. When you have a guy coming down the ice and you are able to lay that hit on him and you suddenly separate him from the puck, guess what? That's a turnover. That means that's you going back the other way. And that hit is legal. That check is the way it's supposed to be. That's what the whole that would be like playing football and telling people that you can't tackle. You got all this equipment on. You got helmets and pads and mouth guards and the whole schmagiggle. And you say, all right, but you can't tackle anybody. What?
Yeah, yeah.
No, no. I'm sorry. I have a hard time with that. And I think it's going to skew not only the cusp players, because you're going to get those guys that are those tweener guys that are those guys that might make it in the NHL, but they're not those top six guys. You know what I mean? Those guys are going to be overlooked because they're going to get wiped out because they're not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to play because the physicality has been removed. So in order for them to gain puck possession or to gain their space, they need to be physical because they're either not fast enough or talented enough or whatever the case is. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I'm just not. I'm very disappointed in that. And the reasons that they gave were like, what? You're out there, you're in a face-off dot, you're breathing on everybody. Hey, maybe it's just me.
Oh, I don't think it's just you. I think other leagues around the world right now are doing just fine and taking the precautions that, say, the NHL did throughout the course of the playoffs and are doing just fine with all aspects of the game still being
Yeah,
in. And I just don't know why the OHL has decided to do this. And I think it will end up hurting them.
yeah. I agree with that 100%, 110%. You know what I mean? So, yeah, well, it is what it is, and we're going to see, if they really do decide that's what it's going to be, and whenever they come back and play, and then I guess we'll see, because now we'll see what the reactions are from the players. You know what I mean? And I don't. It's a shame that they don't have a union like the NHL does, to where they can ask these players what they think. They just make rules, and it's just the way it is. You know what I mean? Where the NHL has to go through the whole players league and the players union and all that other stuff. So that might be
Yeah.
a discussion for another day, or ooh, we might have lit the light bulb on an article idea for the great Lance Green. I can see the gears already turning in the writer extraordinaire's face. Yeah, baby. With that, Lance, I tell you what, man, I think this was another great show, my brother. I think we covered a lot of great stuff, and we got some good stuff coming for sure. So why don't you tell all the folks how we can get a hold of you, my man?
Yeah, guys, definitely. Again, follow me on Twitter at LNGBASSIST, the numbers 39, and look for some new articles coming out that I'm currently working on as we speak at flyersnittygritty.com and steelflyers.com.
You got it for sure, man. Thanks, man. This is I'm really glad we got together to do this, man. I think this is a great idea. This is great content, because you have such a good writing style, and I love reading your stuff, and a lot of folks like reading your stuff, and it's great to be able to get explanations with the articles, and I just get to be the lucky one that sits here with you, man. So I'm just along for the ride, man.
All right, all right. I mean, my head's still got to fit in these
Yeah,
headphones,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah.
All right, man. You can follow me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. Be looking for the Hockey Writers Inc. webpage coming out. That'll be www.steelflyers.com/HockeyWritersInc. We'll send out announcements when that's going to be coming out for sure, and be looking for some great new shows coming for us. And also, definitely got to be checking out Lance's articles on FlyersNittyGritty.com. So check that out for sure. Just remember, guys, stay safe, stay strong, and hang tough.